There's a lot that goes into buying a home, but there are three things specifically that, if you ignore, can ruin you financially. Now, these things aren't necessarily based on the market, they're more based on your decisions as a buyer. So this has nothing to do with headline stuff, bidding wars, interest rates, any of that stuff. It's more so the decisions that you decide to make from when you decide you want to buy a home to when you actually get the keys. So in this video, I'll be breaking down the three most common financial traps that I see first-time buyers in Hamilton making when they buy their first home. My name is Steve LoPresti. I'm a real estate agent in Hamilton, Ontario, and this channel exists to help educate first-time buyers on the home buying process because it can be a fairly stressful thing, especially because you're a first-time buyer, you've never done this before. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them down in the comments, or you can always reach out to me. And again, my job is not to get you into any particular house. It's to help educate you and guide you through the process so that you buy the right house. It's going to be a smart investment and it's going to be smart for you financially. So with that being said, before you buy something, let's talk about what not to do when buying your first home. The first mistake that I see buyers making is underestimating the carrying costs that come with buying a home. Most buyers tend to focus on two things: the purchase price and the monthly payment. Now, those are important, but the real killer is the carrying cost. That's things that go beyond just the mortgage that you're paying, that goes beyond down payments, interest rates. It's actually the amount that's going to be coming out of your bank account every single month on top of that mortgage payment. Got to factor in the TMI, and that's not too much information. It's taxes, maintenance, insurance. So you got to pay your property taxes. You want to figure out how much you are paying in property taxes every single year. If you don't know the specific amount, you can find it based on the listing for that home that you're thinking of buying. Now, if you're not looking at a specific listing and you don't have the number for that specific house in front of you, you can go on to the city's website and you can find the general tax numbers for a specific area. But as a general rule of thumb, it would be good to budget around $300 to $400 per month for this. Next, you have your maintenance, which is not going to be a regular expense. It's going to vary quite a bit month to month. You might have some months where you have no maintenance costs. You might have another month where the furnace breaks down and now you have to shell out $12,000. So this one's hard to budget for, but you do want to keep this in mind. You're going to have to fix little things here and there, buy new light bulbs, buying new door handles, and stuff like that. It's best to put aside a couple $100s per month. And when you are buying a house, you do want to double check things like the furnace, the windows, any thing that will have a major expense potentially associated with it. Look at how old they are so you can budget around that. If the furnace is 20 plus years old, you're going to want to be factoring that into your budget because there's a good chance you'll be replacing that relatively soon. Next, you're going to want to factor in your home insurance as well. This number will vary quite a bit, but it might be $100, $200 a month. Again, that will vary. You're going to want to double check that, get yourself a quote, figure out what it would cost you per month. Don't forget to factor it into your budget. And then the last thing is going to be your utilities, which is your gas, your water, and your electricity bill. This is a number that also will vary quite a bit, but it can be pretty high, especially in the winter months when you're running the heat, or if it's really hot in the summertime and you're blasting the AC. So expect, depending on the home, how many people live there, how many people are taking showers, it's going to be quite a range, but expect maybe $200 to $400 plus, depending on all those factors. There are some buyers who everything looked great on paper, but then when you factored in these additional costs, they were paying over $1,000 above what they thought they would be for the home. So the solution here is, when you're calculating your affordability, add a 15 to 20% buffer just so that you can be safe. That's only point number one. Now, if you're wondering how am I supposed to keep track of all this, well, you're not alone. That's why I put together a free guide for first-time buyers like you, just so you can keep track of everything that you need to know, all the hidden costs that go into buying a home. It's totally free. You can check that out. It's down in the description if you're interested. All right, the second mistake that first-time buyers make is overbuying based on their pre-approval. This is one I see all the time. You might get pre-approved by the bank for a purchase price of $700,000. So the first thing you do is you go online, you start looking at homes listed at $699. But here's the problem. The pre-approval isn't your comfort zone. It's the maximum risk threshold. It's the maximum amount that you can afford and that the bank is willing to lend to you. Now, that's based on your current income and your current spending level. So if you'd like to be having kids in a year, or you'd like to be doing some traveling or any other expenses that might be coming up, that is really going to be eating into your savings. So what happens is, if you just try to buy right at the upper end of your pre-approval limit, you can end up stretching your budget too much and then you end up house poor. So in conjunction with the first tip I mentioned about factoring in all the monthly expenses that you have on top of your mortgage, you want to make sure that you're not buying at the upper end of your budget. Build in a bit of a buffer there so that you can be relatively comfortable. Don't just spend every penny that you have just because you can get it. And the third mistake that I see buyers making is buying a home too early out of pressure or FOMO. Let's be honest, like buying a home feels like a milestone. It feels like something that you're supposed to do. And if you don't do it, especially if you're getting a little bit later in life, you might feel like you're failing a little bit. You might be feeling some pressure because one of your friends just bought a house, or you're feeling it from your parents because they had already bought a house and had 3 kids by the time they were your age. And so it can be easy to think, maybe now's the time, maybe I should pull the trigger, even if you're not 100% financially ready. But I've seen buyers who jumped in just because they were afraid of falling behind, and then a year later they had to sell and they ended up losing more money. Because really you have to think about it. What is the point of buying a house? Why does everybody think buying a house is the right decision to make? Well, usually it's financial. If you compare it to renting over a long enough time frame, yes, the financials do work out in favor of buying a home. So people tend to make the argument that renting is always a waste of time because of that. But that's not necessarily the case. And if you end up rushing into things, buying too early, you can end up losing more money, because not only is there a lot of closing costs when you buy a house, you have things like land transfer tax, you have prepaid property taxes and stuff like that. I don't have time to go into all those in this video. Check out the free guide in the description if you want to know more about that. There's also a lot of closing costs when it comes to selling a house as well. So if you buy and sell a house too close together and you don't give the market time to appreciate, you could end up losing a lot more than if you had just rented during that period. So the solution here really is to not buy because you feel pressured or you feel like you have to or you're falling behind. Buy because it actually makes sense. Buy based on your long-term goals. Buy based on what you can afford today, what makes sense today, the type of lifestyle you want to live today, and the lifestyle that you want to live a few years down the line. Focus on that. Don't focus on any of the extra noise out there, any of the headlines that are telling you that the market's about to crash, that the market's about to go up. Everything's saying something else, and it all is mutually exclusive anyway. So don't listen to all that noise. Focus on your own personal situation and focus on whether or not it makes sense for you. All right, just to recap, the first mistake that buyers make is underestimating the monthly costs associated with buying a home. The second mistake is buying at the top end of their budget and pushing their pre-approval to the max. And the third is jumping in too soon just because you're feeling some pressure and without having a solid plan. So if you can keep all 3 of those in mind when you're buying a house, you'll be ahead of the curve. And if you want help figuring out a solid plan for your situation, you can always reach out to me. My contact info is down in the description. All right, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out some of my other videos for some more Hamilton first-time homebuyer real estate tips. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.